Hi everybody, you're with Peter Cleave here, and we're looking at books and books. Thanks for all of the comments coming in on books and books 1 to 4. We're up to number 5 today. Looking at our window today, we've got some 4 books there. The first book that I wanted to talk about was Jane Fonda, My Life So Far. Very, very good book. I mean, it's an incredible look at an American icon. It's a very important book, I think, about that American family from the Ivy League, I guess, or from some kind of privilege. But with Jane, I think we've got somebody who really worked her and has worked her whole life to give us something very, very beautiful, actually. And that is an image of a person developing, moving, creating, growing. Growing, I think, is the word that I would stay with. I think the book is a tribute to her, but it's a tribute in a sense to America. For me, it just shows everything that can be done there, and it also shows how important the concentration on a talent and the working on a talent and also just the concentration on personal growth, just how important that is and how significant that has been in our time. If we look at the whole idea of personal development and think of it in terms of the political situations of the day, obviously feminism, obviously Vietnam, obviously a whole lot of things to do with fashion, obviously a whole lot of things to do with the mind, developing some sort of personality, some sort of individuality, some sort of identity, I guess, and working on that identity and trusting it, letting it grow, again coming back to that idea of growth. So I just wanted to start with the Jane Fonda book. Obviously, there are key relationships in the book, and I don't want to dwell on them because it moves us over, I guess, to males in a lot of cases. But you're talking obviously Vadim, Ted Turner, these guys, very powerful people, males and alpha males, I guess. And Jane Fonda's life with them, and I point that out because it's rather obvious, but it's and I don't want to take the spotlight off Jane Fonda either. But I do want to talk about the idea of a book about relationships, which in a sense this is not, but they're just the same. Because if we talk about Kissinger, The Price of Power, Henry Kissinger in the Nixon White House, which is the next book moving along, Seymour Hersh's book. This is a pretty good book, which I've never finished, just because I'm not really a Kissinger fan. But it's not really being a Henry fan or a Henry Kissinger fan. It's really to do with, I guess, an anti-Nixonian spirit in me. And that, of course, is to do with your generation coming through the protest movements and so forth. Not that I was terribly involved in protest movements, really, but just the whole idea of that generation, the 1968 generation, how mixed up we all were with some sort of idea of hippiedom, whatever you want to call it, outside of a system. And the people representing the system turned out to take 3 of them, LBJ, Richard Nixon, and Henry Kissinger. The relationship that I wanted to talk about, though, was the relationship between Kissinger and Nixon. I think that's a critical relationship, and Hersh, to some extent, has nailed it. Hersh is a pretty significant writer. And again, not having finished the book, I must actually pick it up on a flight sometime, flight from New Zealand to the UK, a 12-hour flight or something, and read it properly. But I do want to salute the man, because Hersh, because he's made a great job of the part of the book that I've read. The Fonda book I know pretty well because I just got really interested in Jane Fonda as a phenomenon. Okay, so that leaves us moving across our window this morning with several other books, and of course I'm putting Stone alongside Fonda, because I think that in a sense these two are critical in the media of our age. And I guess they're critical in terms of movies. With Fonda you've got Barbarella, and with Stone you've got so many really great movies that one just doesn't know where to start. So I think that looking at those two side by side, you have a kind of a weight in American and global culture which is quite significant and quite incredible. The Stone book is not so extensive, Riordan's book on Stone's relationships with people, but it is a very, very important book actually, and Riordan in his own way is a very, very a good writer, and again coming back to Hersh, I think in a way Riordan does as good a job with Stone as Hersh does with Kissinger. So they're both incredible books, incredibly important people in our lives and in the global movie media situation, if I can put those three words in hyphens alongside one another. I think too that they've escaped Postman. I mentioned Neil Postman, who to some extent is on my mind. I mentioned Neil Postman in his book Amusing Ourselves to Death, his idea of television. These two, for some reason, Stone and Fonda, I believe, managed to break that. They could have been trivialized like everything else gets trivialized on television or whatever, in the great media zone of America or whatever. But they haven't. They've managed to stand aside from it and critique it and be their own people in it, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. Okay, so with that in mind, looking right across the board, I wanted to bring in Paul Moon's Augustus Earle, because apart from just thinking about biography, nobody apart from Moon has actually looked at Earle in terms of biography, and we've got two books by Moon. One of them, of course, is the book I've already talked about, Against Truth, which talks about the idea of an art forgery in New Zealand, which is quite astonishing that something like that could happen in New Zealand. That said, I think that the two books, Augustus Earle's New Zealand Visit and Against Truth, do give us a biography of Augustus Earle in brief. And I don't know Paul's listing, but it may be a good idea to look at a third being a comprehensive biography of Earle. And then over on the other side, I did want to bring back Lenny Bruce, the other side of the window, just because I think that this America that we're talking about when we talk about Stone, Fonda, Kissinger and Nixon is one kind of an America, and Lenny Bruce's is another. And if we're talking biography and the reality of life in the USA, and particularly in New York. I mean, I mentioned the idea of a New York identity for Bruce, and it's an astonishing book in that sense, in that it's pegged to New York as the as home, as the base of civilization, and that is quite. I found that quite eerie, and as a non-American in reading the book. The fact is, though, that it's a very different America. It's just another country that we're talking about when we're talking about Bruce, and we're talking about Stone, Fonda, and Nixon and Kissinger. Having said that, I think that Oliver Stone got it. I think Oliver Stone understands the world of Lenny Bruce, and full credit to him. You're with Peter Cleve here, Books and Books.